Welcome to Harry Potter and the Anxious Millennials, a show where we delve week by week into each chapter of the Harry Potter series. Hello, listeners. Hello, Ariana.
Hello, Adam Reed.
How are you? How are you
great.
feeling right now? On top of the world?
Listeners, I feel on top of the world because I just got not one, but 2 tickets to BTS in Las Vegas. And I'm Lisha. I don't know why I became that. That was accidental.
Oh my God.
I didn't intend to do a Liza Minnelli impression. But I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to see BTS for 2 nights in Las Vegas with my sister, and we're very excited. So
that's so exciting. This week, we read chapter 10 called Mayhem, Miller at the Ministry.
Mayhem Miller, everyone. Cauldron Bottoms and Mayhem Miller. One night only.
Come see them with Celestina Warbeck.
Yeah, she has to be. Has to be a drag queen.
She's the MC.
Mm-hmm.
Ari, what happens in the chapter?
Okay, I did think about this one beforehand. So
good job.
They return to the burrow. Harry alerts himself and his friends. Harry alerts Ron and Hermione of his Voldemort dream as they prepare to go back and start their 4th year. Yeah?
Now, I'm going to start with a question.
Okay.
Could this chapter just not have happened? And I would still understand the rest of this book. So, there's only the truly in terms of plot, I think it's just Rita Skeeter being introduced. As
right, Rita Skeeter and Ron's dress robes. The dress robe nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gendered clothes.
The gendered clothes. Yes. Yeah. A very good way of saying that, because that's exactly what's happening here.
Because that's the joke.
Right. The joke is, once again, a bloke in a dress. Michael's friends are here. Well, not here, at the moment, but they flew into LA and they're in Tahoe right now with Michael. And it's 3 of them. They're all English. And I said to them, I was like, because we were talking about pantomimes, and they were saying there's always a dame role where it's the mom of the main character, but it's a man in a dress. And they were a bloke in a dress, a proper bloke in a dress. And I was like,
not someone trying to be a woman, someone who's
yes. And I said,
works down at the
chest hair,
yeah,
full,
he's
maybe
a fisherman,
5 o'clock shadow.
He works in the mine. Yeah.
Very muscular. But I was like, my friend Adam and I have had this conversation a couple times that English people just love a man in a dress. You guys just love it. And they all were like, yeah, especially really old English people. It's just the funniest thing to them. And there's so many famous television shows that do the bits. Monty Python is the one that comes to mind immediately. So yeah, they just love it.
There's so many shows in Britain that have just a man in a dress as not a once in a while character, every episode character, a series regular.
Yes, exactly. The man in a dress continues. So this chapter starts out with them going back to bed for a couple hours and then Mr. Weasley waking them up. That just sounds like a nightmare to me. Can we just go right now?
Why can't we just go?
Why are we going back to bed only to wake up 2 hours later? No.
In the middle of my REM? In the middle of my REM cycle?
That's what I'm saying. We just go. Everyone's awake now. Just go.
I also don't believe that you would be able to be I'm able to fall asleep after the intense
something
night
that.
You know what I mean?
There's literally a
Your
port
adrenaline
key.
is pumping.
There is a port key somewhere nearby. Just go and grab it and go home. If I was a wizard, do you know how often I would be like, well, I'm done. Goodbye.
Okay, why do portkeys make way more sense 3 chapters ago than in this chapter? When they're like, they're just portkeys laying around and then we have to sign up for a portkey. And I was like,
everyone's trying to leave. You know when
This
everyone
makes
probably wouldn't have
no
been trying to leave? When you went to bed for 2 hours. That's when no one else was trying to leave and you should have left right then. I'm just saying. I'm trying to think of like a situation where if there was an emergency situation like that, if there was a KKK rally in a campsite that I was in, I would be like, we're gonna go right now. We're just gonna go home. Okay,
yeah,
we're all
imagine
awake.
being like, oh, I'm gonna go back to bed after like an upside down cross was burned.
Makes no sense.
No.
So immediately,
it's also like you are not muggles. You are not. 4 of you in this group
can apparate. Sidelong apparition, Adam.
How many of them are there in total? 10, I think.
Who can all apparate, though?
There's
Mr.
6.
Weasley, Percy.
There's 4 and 6 who can't
Bill
apparate.
And Charlie. They can all take one person with them and then like come back for Fred and George.
First of all, I believe that Arthur and who's older, Bill or Charlie? Bill, I think, right?
Bill's the oldest. Yeah.
I think Arthur and Bill can take 2 people each.
Yeah. Hasn't Harry, Ron, and Hermione all apparate together? So yeah. Girl, this is what I'm saying, where these are the moments that I just get mad at Jo, where I'm like, girl, what are you doing? They don't need to sleep for 2 more hours. That really bumped me. I was really bothered by that. I was like, so then.
You know what I was bothered by? The next sentence.
Tell me.
When we find out that Mr. Roberts is like.
Yes, I'm about to get into it. So he has suffered brain damage, essentially.
Character 2 in this book.
My mother
character in this book to experience brain damage.
My mother is a psychologist. She's actually a very well-known psychologist in her field. She's published several books now. She has another one coming out. I'm very proud of you, Mom.
Pre-order on Amazon.
Yeah.
Don't pre-order on Amazon. Pre-order on your local bookstore.
Yeah. I grew up being very aware of like brain damage situation. Like I always had to ride when I was riding my bike. I always had to wear a helmet because my mom knew how terrible it could be if I got in a bike accident and like had brain damage. Right. And it's just been something that I am very, very aware of. Also, I think of have you read the book, The Body Keeps the Score? How your like body stores trauma, how our bodies store trauma. Highly recommend. I thought about that too. Like, I'm like, okay, well, if you're erasing his memory so he doesn't remember it, that's one thing. But like his body remembers the trauma. Like there's like the trauma response that happens that is like trauma that can be involuntary. So I was just like,
do you know what I'm referencing?
No.
There's this video of this compilation. Okay, do you remember when Lady Gaga did the 99 people in a room? There could be 100 people in a room and 99 don't believe in you, but one person. Do you remember that?
For every interview. Yes. For every interview.
So there is a similar thing that Jamie Lee Curtis did when the new Halloween came out, where like she is in it again or whatever. And she's talking about generational trauma and like how characters experience trauma and like why that's important for horror or whatever, or like what Halloween is like doing to like discuss that as like its main focal point or whatever.
Yeah.
Or what she thinks is its main focal point, which I don't think the movie was actually trying to do, but she pronounces it trauma. So someone made a compilation of her just being like generational trauma, trauma between generations, trauma.
PTSD, trauma, generational trauma, rage and trauma, PTSD, trauma, post-traumatic stress, female trauma.
Oh my gosh. I've never seen it, so I will be watching it for the first time when you post it in our video.
And you know where you can see it? YouTube.com/the Ampliverse.
Yes.
I don't think it's a joke outright that like Mr. Mr. Roberts has experienced like permanent brain loss, basically. But they do make a joke. There is supposed to be a joke in that he says like Happy Christmas to them.
The fact that he's just like, he'll be okay. They're kind of like that for a while. I'm like, you're describing brain damage.
They're kind of like that for a while.
I don't know if that's exactly what they said.
No, it is basically what they said. He says. He's like yeah, that can happen.
That can happen, yeah.
Yeah.
When someone's been, what is it, obliviated so many times.
Yeah.
Doing it then. How about that?
Also, there's something too where I'm like, I wonder if wizards have, do you know the thing where it's like medical studies, like for a long time wouldn't use women in medical studies. So like they would be like, oh, it's fine for everybody. But like,
didn't we just talk about this? That I was like, it literally wasn't until 1993. Oh, I posted about it in a recommendation for our pod. I was like, women weren't even required to be a part of medical studies until 1993.
Right. I wonder if like the wizarding world like will test the effects of like certain spells on muggles.
Oh,
because like
they probably do, and that's so terrible.
If we're supposed to, well, I think they don't. This is my thing. I have a feeling that they're like, oh, for like wizards, you know, the obliviation effects will wear off after like a couple days or whatever. Yeah. But like, what if you've never tested on a muggle? And she makes the point of being like, well, wizards and muggles have different like biologies, basically, because like. There are wizarding ailments that I mean, it's insinuated by the fact that like muggle ailments can be cured, but like wizarding ailments are specific to wizards and they can't be, basically.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Because their genetic makeup is different. So
right.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I guess they wouldn't test things on muggles, would they? I don't know, girl.
It's midichlorians.
It's midichlorians. So Molly's very distraught because she wasn't really sure if anything happened to them, which I'm like, once again, y'all can use your Patronus messengers.
I literally thought this, Ari. I have it as a note.
Get it together, Joe. I'm just saying, like, I am so sad that we didn't get a weasel, which first off isn't very creative. Let's start there. A weasel running to Molly to be like, we're okay. You're telling me in this magical world, you cannot communicate immediately when something scary happens like that? I don't like it. So basically,
these people have the power to instantaneously move from one place to another place,
but can't
and
send
it doesn't
a message.
happen. And then they don't send a text version of that idea.
Yes, come on. Oh, it's so annoying.
Boot.
Toot or boot? Boot, honey. So Molly's very upset, specifically because she had like a little fight with the twins. And she was like, I was so sorry that I was ragging on you about your OWLs, blah, blah, blah. And then they're talking about the paper and how like Mr. Weasley was quoted by none other than Rita Skeeter, who, I'm sorry, is Rita wrong?
Okay, the first part, she's definitely not wrong.
She's right. The Ministry, what are they doing? I agree
it's also
with her.
Weird. Yes, I agree with her. And I had two thoughts. One, Rita Skeeter's right. Because I think, do you have the book?
Yeah.
Open it up and read the part where he says, he's like reading the first bit of the article.
Okay.
Because all of it is true. It is not until she makes up the dead bodies coming out of the forest that's when it's like, all right, Rita.
Right. Bill handed his father the newspaper. He scanned the front page while Percy looked over his shoulder. Ministry blunders, culprits not apprehended, lax security, dark wizards running unchecked, national disgrace.
None of that is wrong.
Where is the lie?
Now, here's my question. So, this is speaking of something a little bit ahead. So maybe I should just wait to talk about it in a later book. But my initial thought is this book very much paints a picture that the Daily Prophet is like standing against the Ministry. But then in later books, it is very much implied the Daily Prophet is like run by the Ministry.
Yeah, like leaning on it heavily.
Yeah. And there's not a good explanation of why the change happened, or if there was a change, or it was just convenient for the storytelling that had to happen.
Fudge just must have started to bribe the Daily Prophet after him and Dumbledore had the fallout. He was like, I'll work out a little, treat for you, pay you off every month if you'll basically publish like what I want you to publish.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on that. So she's definitely not wrong about what's going on in the Ministry. And she's definitely right about cauldron bottoms, Percy. So get over it. And then Arthur's like, well, I got to get over there. I need to help out. What are you going to do? Percy, I get. Percy is like helping Mr. Crouch.
Mr. Crouch.
So basically he's just like fielding, like what an assistant does, like fielding the complaints that come in, sending the like already written out email or in this, in letter form.
The press release. Yeah.
Right. Like all of that. I get that Percy is needed, but like why is
Arthur,
what is Arthur doing?
The misuse of Muggle artifacts office.
Yeah. I just don't really.
Now, to go back to our theory.
Yeah, where are you going with this?
Maybe he just wanted to see Ludo again.
Oh yeah, he's having an affair with Ludo. Or they know. Molly and him
it's
are
not
aware.
An affair.
This is an arrangement.
Very open.
An entanglement, as Jada would say.
Yeah. A throuple.
A throuple, yes. Yeah, I didn't really understand. I was like, all right. I think.
And then it's like, now she knows I think this is later where it's like she knows about Bertha missing. Bertha has been name checked in this book every single chapter so far. I cannot believe I did not remember this person.
Bertha. Now you will remember her.
Only. Who's Hermione? I only know Bertha.
Hermione who? Luna who? Also, I think I have said this before, but every time that she says Harry, Ron, and Hermione marched out of the room, I always picture them marching. Every time. Every time. It's such a vivid image in my head. So they march out of the room because Harry's like, we should go put our stuff in Ron's room. It's just like, there's a more subtle way, Harry. Like, I just feel like I mean, maybe Molly's distracted in this moment, but like Molly's like, why? What are you doing?
Yeah, I like the idea that they walk out of the room and then the book that's from like Molly's perspective is like, and then I turned to the rest of the family and was like, what are they going to talk about?
That was
because they're clearly up to something.
Right, exactly. So they march out of the room and they go up to Ron's room. Oh, well, actually, wait, no. Mrs. Weasley says that Hedwig hasn't shown up yet because Harry's like, where's Hedwig? And I was like, it is really weird to me that like we are just expecting this owl to like scour the earth for Sirius Black. Like, give me a montage of Hedwig like on a quest.
It's
like
been
trying
a day
to find his what?
It's been one day. They left yesterday to go to didn't they?
But Hedwig's been gone for a while. He sent her off before he left.
Sure. I just feel like, why don't you just go upstairs and see if Hedwig's there instead of being like, I can't believe Hedwig isn't back. Like, it's been a day. It hasn't been 2 weeks later.
This girl is looking for Sirius Black all over the entire earth. He's like, well, he could be in Africa. I'm like, well, I hope he isn't. Poor Hedwig. Like, they're so casual about it. They're like, well, Hedwig will find him. I'm like, what if she doesn't?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I really don't understand. Are we just supposed to believe it's like a magic catch-all that like Hedwig just knows where he is by magical power?
Yep,
okay.
That's it. Got it.
Because it's the same thing with like, how is she going to know where Harry's ass is?
Yeah, you didn't tell her.
Hedwig has her own life. Like, she's not there.
She's going out. Another club.
She's going to Cauldron Bottom's show with Mayhem Miller. Leave her alone. She's earned it. She deserves a night out on the town with her bird friends.
Just between us bird friends.
Just between us bird friends. Her gaggle of gals.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so give me the Hedwig spin-off. I want it.
Yeah, it's just
I want it now.
It's just being tired, basically.
Just her being like, damn it, I have to go on another mission for this child. So then he's like, I had a dream about you-know-who, Voldemort. And he was talking about how he was going to kill someone. And he like neglects to mention that it was him. I don't know about this. Maybe it's just because like we have mentioned that we're both just very honest. And like the first thing I would do would be like, why did I had a dream that Voldemort was talking about killing me? Because one, is that going to be surprising to anyone else? Not really. Like, of course, that's what Voldemort's planning to do. It's Voldemort.
Right.
It's his whole thing.
He tried to do it in the first book.
That's his
whole deal.
He tried to
do this in your first year.
Yeah, you were 11 then. Now you're 14, so he's even more pissed.
Well, first of all, he tried to do it in your first year of life. And then he tried to do it in your first year at Hogwarts.
That's true.
And now he's trying to do it the first year you have a crush.
And he did it the second year when he himself was a teenager in his teenage form. So like the whole thing, Harry, this is not new information. Voldemort's trying to kill you.
Use your brain.
Newsflash. I was like, why not just tell them that you had a dream that whatever. So, and then he was talking about Wormtail and how he was like, well, the prophecy, was true. And like, he's just like, well, I don't know. And like, the reactions from Hermione and Ron are like very similar to kind of what he imagined in his head, which I liked that bit. I thought that was very cute that they had very similar reactions. And then afterwards, they're kind of just like at a loss for like what to do or other than just wait for Sirius's reply. They're like, oh yeah, Sirius will probably know for sure. Like, we'll just see what he says.
Right.
I love Sirius Black. I think that he is like one of my favorite characters in the entire series. What? Oh, I'm sorry. What would Sirius know? Sirius has never even had a job. He was in jail for like 12 years. He's very disconnected, has been very disconnected from reality or from like the world in general. Now he's on the run. Other than like literally being imprisoned with dark wizards. I was like, okay, but it's fine. It's like, maybe it's just the kid thing you do where you're like, well, let me ask an adult. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, I know why Harry feels safe talking to Sirius, so I'll buy it. So then after that, Ron's like, well, do you want to go play Quidditch? And Hermione's like, of course not, Ron. How could you ask that? And Harry's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, Hermione, I'm with you, girl. What the hell? This is so dumb. I mean, like, I only got one REM cycle of sleep. I'm going to go back to bed.
This is when I wrote the note, Hermione the nag.
Oh,
because
no fun.
I don't know. Yeah, just no fun. Too strict. Very boring. Like, she's written in a way where it's like, then why are you friends with her? You don't like her.
Especially because it's a very sensitive thing of Hermione to say, to be like, he's going through a lot or like he's processing a lot right now. Like, just give him some time. I'm like, and that's a bad thing for her to say that about her friend. Like, it's just like it was a weird moment for me. I was like, Hermione, I'm with you. I don't know what's going on with them.
I think Joe should just stick to like Ron having the closing moment one-liners. Because when it's Hermione, it's always like, Hermione scoffed at the boys for being different than her strict ways, which are dumb.
Hermione's shrill voice rung out. God, girl, what?
I will say when Mom was here, she was like, she literally, because we watched the, I don't remember which episode had just come out the week that she was here, but we watched it on the TV, and we had said something about how she wrote, I think Molly. Oh, I know which episode it was. It was the episode where they get to the burrow, and then Molly does the like, she nags at the boys for having like whatever. And even my mom was like, I just don't like the way she writes women. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh! Now it's one thing for us to say. It's shocking when my mom says it.
Well, just like the fact that your mom, a mother herself, you know, and like a
Ari,
Midwestern
famously
mother.
allergic to mothers. Just the word.
Can't do it. A Midwestern mother just like being like, yeah, no, not for me.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I agree. I don't like how she writes them either. I agree, Nan. So then I think it just like skips. This was where we had the little like 3 dots, right? And then it's like, over the next few days, we didn't see Percy or Mr. Weasley much, which I'm like, once again, Percy, I get it. Why is Arthur there? What is he doing? Everything Percy talks about, I'm like, yeah, for sure. I don't think we really get any intel on what Arthur's there doing.
No, he's having sex
hanging out with Ludo.
Bagman.
Yeah, he's just hanging out with Ludo. And Percy's too distracted to like notice.
Yeah.
LOL at the Mundungus bit. He was like, my extravagant tent has been damaged. And Arthur's like, he literally had like a blanket and twigs. I was like, oh, I can picture that so vividly. His little feet like sticking out of the tent in the cold. Yeah. But then when Percy starts talking about Crouch, it reminded me of like when like poor people will like defend billionaires in like a really weird way. Because he's just like, well, a man of Barty Crouch's standing has to have absolute obedience. And it's just like, it's like how when people are like, well, billionaires can't pay everyone a living wage. And I'm like hell they can't. They absolutely can't.
They shouldn't pay more in taxes than other people.
Or that too. Like, it's just like, it's the whole like, well, they work really hard. I'm like, actually,
famously.
They definitely don't.
Yeah. They are the hardest workers.
So that was a kind of a weird moment.
They are the hardest workers. And we are here to say that on this podcast.
It's just weird to be like.
We stand with Elon Musk. And his inherited emerald mine.
Speak for yourself.
I have to look out for my fellow white men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Adam really identifies with Percy in this moment as well. No, I know you don't in this moment.
This person, if they said this on Twitter, if what they said about what Percy says about Mr. Crouch, if they said it on Twitter, the response to them would be like, how does the boot taste?
Yeah, for real.
Because fuck you, man.
It's just weird to be like, it's just so obvious that it's like, well, if I'm a millionaire, if you're a person that's defending millionaires, being like, well, if I'm a millionaire, I don't want anyone to take my money. And I'm like, guess what? You will never be a millionaire. I can guarantee you that right now. So like, you're literally fighting for the interest of someone that would look down on you yourself. And you will never be a billionaire. You will never make that much money. So that moment I was like,
yeah, there have been how many people in history that have made that much money? And you're like, my chances are pretty good. Your chances are bad. You have bad chances to make $1 billion.
Literally never be in that tax bracket. The chances of you being in the 1% are literally 1%.
They're less than.
I'm proud of myself for that one. I liked that one. So yeah, Percy's just defending Barty Crouch. Hermione's not having it. And that's right, Hermione. I agree with you.
Yeah.
LOL at the howls from the ghoul in the attic. I was just like, this is the stuff we talk about that we're like, I like this little moment from her. Like, I just like that. Like, all of a sudden, it's like,
just the reminders that we live in a magical world.
Yeah.
Book.
Yeah. Book. And then they're getting ready to go back to school. They're packing up. Molly did the shopping, as we said she was going to do.
Right.
And she even went to Harry's bank account for him. That was really nice of her, Harry. You couldn't just give her a little something?
Yeah. Just a tip.
It's just weird. And then we have the whole bit with Ron's dressing gown where he's like, you gave me Ginny's dress.
I also want to say Muggles may have a better banking system than wizards.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've talked about this. What is the conversion?
Well,
Just
not
that
only
alone.
that, but also I have a card. I don't have to go to a vault to take out literal metal coins and then be like, okay, I got my deposit. I can just be like, Arri, do you want me to Apple Pay?
How has Harry not been robbed? Snatch some galleons out of his purse. Someone probably has, and he just has so much money. He just doesn't even notice.
Doesn't even notice.
So yeah, there's the bit with Ron's dressing gown, and he had to get Molly had to get his second hand because there weren't a lot of choices.
Right.
She's like, I got Harry some too, but of course Harry's aren't secondhand because he's a trust fund baby. So
right.
Harry's are really nice, and Ron's are a mess. And I'm just in this moment, I'm like, Harry, why don't you just order Ron some nice dress robes and then just be like, oh, I don't know
or
who those are from. Good for you.
She has the line where she's she talks about how Molly gets flushed when she brings up the fact that she had to buy him secondhand. And Harry's like, oh, if he would love to give half of his money to the Weasleys, but he knows they would never take it. And I was like, well, you could try.
You could try. I literally said, I was like, Harry, if you never offer it to them, you'll never really know what they would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Give it to them in a gift, at Christmas. Be like, right. Thank you so much for literally taking me in as your
I stayed
seventh
with you.
son.
Right.
Gosh, I'm just especially with this moment, I understand that Harry is a kid, and to be fair, if I was a kid, I don't know if I would have thought about that, but I'm thinking about being at college. So that's the closest I ever came to a boarding school situation. And right. If I had a friend that needed something like that, there were multiple times where I would be like, oh, I'll just spot you, or I'll just get it for you this one time. No worries, if I had the money to do it, because right. I had a job on campus. But it's just weird to me that it's well, they would never take it.
Arri, turning tricks is not a job on campus, okay?
on the campus corner. What are you talking about? No, I was actually the theater and dance department's videographer. So I'd film. There were two of us. We'd split up the season, so we'd film the shows. And then I was the TA for biology of birds, even though I was a musical theater major, and I got paid for that too.
Oh, great.
I will never forget when he asked me to do it. The professor's name was Dr. Horn.
So you can write the book on what Hedwig is doing when not on screen.
Yes, I should write Hedwig's memoir. Yeah, I remember when he asked, Dr. Horn was his name, and he looks exactly how you would picture the professor of biology birds to look.
Hedwig,
exactly
no, I don't know if you know this. Hedwig owns a drag shop called Hedwig's !
Hedwig's. Stupid. I like it. I'll put that. That'll be in her memoir.
I hate myself.
So yeah, Harry doesn't offer to help the Weasleys once again.
Yeah, a running bit.
And then Ron gets upset.
Although, wait, hold on. I do want to just dial back real quick. I will say he may surprise us in this very book with helping the Weasleys. In this very book.
Sure. Yeah.
He could. Well, we're not going to spoil anything. Obviously.
No spoilers. Notoriously, we don't have any spoilers.
We don't do that here. But maybe keep an eye out for it.
Just, make a little mental note, listeners.
A little mental note.
So, Ron is very distraught about his dress robes. Harry feels, very uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to do anything about it. Way to be a bystander, Harry. This is very un-Gryffindor of you. And then Pig is choking on his owl treats. So Ron goes over and is like, why is everything I own rubbish? Or why is everything of mine rubbish? And I was like, first off, don't yell that at Pig. Pig is perfect.
Pig doesn't deserve this. What did Pig do to you?
Pig
is choking.
Pig is the cutest.
Save your owl.
A pig, I'm pretty sure, isn't he a pygmy owl? Listeners, this is what a pygmy owl looks like. Right here.
Is that a thing? Well, I guess you would know. You are the...
I'm pretty sure a pygmy owl.
Oh, they're so cute.
Yes, that's what a pygmy owl looks like.
God. While you're looking at photos, I have two notes that I missed talking about, so I'll just bring them up really quick. When I was younger and I read this book, there is a sentence in this chapter that there is no way I understood what it meant, and it's not an important enough sentence to look it up. It is the sentence, Charlie was darning a fireproof balaclava. Now, I don't think as a child I knew what darning or balaclava was. So I was just like, I don't know. Keep going. Who cares? But now that I know what a balaclava is, and darning is mending socks, basically. Mending a small garment.
Oh, mending. Oh, I'm thinking of donning. Like wearing, sporting.
Oh,
that's
no,
different
darning.
Darning.
Like darning socks.
No, I didn't know what that was until this moment.
Yeah, he's fixing it. There was a hole. He's patching the hole in his balaclava.
Yeah, very important.
It's fireproof balaclava because what? He works with what?
Dragons.
Dragons. And then the other thing I asked is how does one acquire a house elf?
Being rich, passed down. Has to be
You think you don't think there's a market?
Oh,
where they can bid on them?
I've never thought about that. I hope there isn't. That sounds terrible. But then also how?
Because the only reason I thought of this was because
still
Hermione says it's not as if he paid. She basically is Barty Crouch didn't pay Winky. But I was reading quickly, so I read it as he didn't pay for Winky. And then I was like, wait.
Oh.
How do you get a house elf? It's not great. The more you think about house elves, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Truly the worse it gets.
Because the only thing that is coming to mind right now is in the Black family, they keep the heads of their house elves. So I'm is it
oh my God, I forgot about that.
It's so terrible.
God. No spoilers, no spoilers.
Terrible. It's probably not a coincidence that she never went into the details of that. But then I'm well, then how are their house elves working at Hogwarts? Were they... Do house elves pick a family that they want to work for?
Well,
again, do they have any control over it?
House elves don't work at Hogwarts.
Right.
They're
enslaved
owned by
to
Hogwarts.
Yeah, right.
It's literally only Dobby that ends up working at Hogwarts.
Right. Because that's the whole thing of I think Dumbledore even says something he's happy to pay Dobby, but like no one else will be paid. And I was just like,
nobody else wanted it or something like that. It happens in this book.
yeah,
but,
I was just like,
yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah,
I was like, what's going on here? It's the same thing where there's the moment where it's like Ron says that his mom wishes that she had a house elf.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, don't do this. Don't make this that it's just like,
yeah, it's a status
or if you are going to do that, if you're going to bring that into this world, then you have to like show that that is wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Rather than what she does, where it's just Hermione is like being silly.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like it. So yeah, so
Great.
that's it. That's the chapter. It ends with Ron insulting sweet little pig.
Yeah. Who's done nothing wrong.
I don't like it. Once again, not
It's
for
not
me.
a great chapter. It's probably the weakest chapter we've read so far in this book.
Where does it? Hold on. Let me read the first part of the next.
Besides chapter 2, which is weak just because she has to do the whole, Harry was not your average 14-year-old boy.
I just read the first part of the chapter, and yeah, I don't think we really needed what just happened in that chapter, other than the Rita Skeeter bit. But I'm like, I don't even know
that
if we
could have
needed
been
that.
worked into a chapter, the next chapter. You don't need a whole chapter for it.
I don't think that what Rita Skeeter was saying about the Ministry was incorrect. So it's just like, I'm like, well, you're not making the best case at this point. Because I do think the Ministry is kind of shit. So, and I'm about to be proven right as time goes on. It's going to take a turn for the worse.
No spoilers, no spoilers.
No spoilers though, you know. Not on this podcast.
Not on this podcast. Anyway, Harry does die at the end of this book series. All right. Well, that wraps up this chapter. Next week, we'll be reading chapter 11 called Aboard the Hogwarts Express. I was going to say all aboard. All aboard the Hogwarts Express. All aboard. All aboard. All aboard. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you find your podcasts. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so that we can get a perfect Newt score. 5 stars only, or else you'll be forced to perform with Cauldron Bottoms and Mayhem Miller at the Ministry.
Great.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at HBAnxious, Instagram at HBAnxious, and watch our full episodes on YouTube at The Ampliverse.
Please do.
We are hosted on Anchor and recorded on Zencaster, so thank you to the both of them. And we are a proud member of The Ampliverse. Check them out at theampliverse.com. Thank you, Ari/Adam.
Thank you, Adam/Ari. We'll never know.
And as always, moving forward, quietus.